So if I don't see anything in the chat, then that means we're good to go. So right now we're looking at about 2 minutes to get started. Just for you early people in on the session, just curious if there is anybody that's using Google Home Services, or if you have any questions. So one, drop me a note in the chat if you are currently using Google Home Services. And then secondly, I want to answer any and all questions. So drop those in there into the chat session. Hopefully everybody can use that feature. And if I don't hear from anybody, I assume everybody can hear me well. A couple of people asked, like, why are you doing this over GoToMeeting versus GoToWebinar? For those nerdy folks who want to know, I just thought GoToMeeting would be a place for everybody to collaborate versus GoToWebinar, which is not very much open for collaboration and questions. So that's one of the reasons why I chose GoToMeeting. So we'll wait one more minute for people to join us. And for those folks that are early, welcome. Thank you for attending. And then, as mentioned before, if you can't hear me or if there are any technical difficulties, drop those into the chat box, and myself or my colleague will do the best to monitor those questions. Also, everything will be recorded. So we'll just wait one more minute, and then we will kick off today's meeting. And thank you for those who have dropped the note in the chat box that you can hear me well. Good stuff. So let's see. We have 9:31 my time. Not sure what time it is in your area, but let's get started. I am super happy for all of you who have joined us, and I'm super excited about this topic. Google Home Services coming to a location near you. As mentioned before, for some of the folks who have joined us earlier in the meeting, thank you for attending. And let's just cover today's agenda and some housekeeping notes. We do have the session recorded, so no need to take notes. I will provide the slides and the video. Thank you so much for attending. I'm really excited about this topic, Google Home Services. It's an amazing program. Currently, I have 3 clients up and running on it, and we're going to cover most of the results. So today's agenda, we're going to cover what is Google Home Services and why it is applicable to your business, being a plumbing and HVAC company. What industries can participate in Google Home Services and who qualifies and what is that process? We're going to go into detail on that. What are the cities that are currently live with Google Home Services and what are the upcoming cities? We're going to get into how it works, how Google charges, and what are the fees associated with being part of this program. And then most importantly is how do you and your business get started with Google Home Services? And if it's not in a geographic area, how to become part of the early waiting list. So we're going to cover those in about 35 minutes. And we'll get into some great detail, hopefully providing a nice value add to this program. Also, I want to save time at the end. I'm available for the whole hour to answer any and all questions. So you do have any questions, drop those into the chat box. And I noticed a couple people said that they're having problems hearing me. If you don't mind, just as a spot check, just drop me a quick note in the chat box. Let me know that you can hear me okay. Otherwise, I don't want to move forward unless everybody can hear me okay. So if you don't mind, drop me a quick box. I'll answer any and all questions there. I'm also available afterwards to get into great detail on some of the stuff. If you can't hear me, then drop me a note. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Apparently you can hear me okay, so let's move on. Let's get into the nuts and bolts of this. So home services. Essentially, why did Google launch home services? And, what is the problem that they're looking to solve? So I just listed a couple of lead generation companies. And if you're in the plumbing and HVAC business, you're very familiar with Google Local, Amazon Home Services, Angie's List, Home Advisor. By the way, those two companies had just combined. So if you've been generating a lot of leads from Angie's List and Home Advisor, stay tuned. They're launching a lot of new things at the end of this year. Thumbtack is another big and upcomer, and also Yelp. And for those of you that have been around for a long time, remember Red Beacon, which was bought by Google. No, I'm sorry, bought by Home Depot. They've been around for a while. But basically, the problem and the reason why Google has launched Google Home Services is, one, to keep up with the changing industry. Secondly, they've really targeted this product after two industries. We'll get into more specifics on this. But the first industry was locksmiths, and the second industry was plumbing companies. So hopefully not offending too many people on this call, but locksmiths and plumbing companies are the two worst advertisers on the internet. When I say worst advertisers, I'll go into a little bit on locksmiths. And again, hopefully I don't offend anybody. But essentially, if you're locked out of your home or your car, you're going to pull out your cell phone and you're going to search for a locksmith. And chances are you're going to see a Google pay-per-click ad, which then shows you an ad which says $39, all locks unlocked, call now. And what happens is you click on that ad or you call that business, and you'll probably get somebody in Texas who will in turn position themselves as if they were 2 streets away from you. And then what they'll do over at the call center in Texas for that $39 ad that you clicked on, they'll dispatch a local locksmith who then will show up at your door or at your car. And you're under the impression that it's $39, yet that locksmith will show up and be like, oh, we can't do it for $39. We're going to need to drill the lock, and that'll be $250. And at that point in time, all you want to do is get into your home or your car. And so you're going to pay whatever it takes, especially when that person is looking you in the eye. So that's essentially a scam. And that was going on long before the internet, back to the Yellow Page days. And unfortunately, we're seeing the same thing with plumbing companies, where we've all done a search on Google and you see, a $49 or $79, drain cleaning service. Whereas we all know that it's going to cost much more than that. So Google has really trying to look out for their end user and create a better user experience. So we can go into great detail, but at the end of the day, as a plumbing company or an HVAC company, you're living and dying by the new customers. So adaptation to Amazon Home Services, Google Home Services, Google Local, Map Listings, Yelp, Angie's List, Thumbtack, Service, whatever it might be. The best strategy is to figure out what generates the best quality phone call and the best quality customer for your business, and to base it on that. So we'll go into more detail on that. Again, for those of you that are just joining us, feel free to drop any questions in the chat box, and we'll cover those, as they come up or as they move along. So let's get right into Google Home Services, the specific verticals that this product is launching for. We're going to get into what it is and how you can be part of this program. We talked a little bit about why they're launching this. So right now, this is a spreadsheet directly from Google as of yesterday, and it lists the verticals that Google Home Services is live on. So the green here, you can see San Francisco is where they first launched, and locksmiths, plumbing companies, HVAC, electricians, garage door, they are all currently live on Google Home Services. You can see some of the other verticals that they are launching soon. And when we get into the specific areas where some of these services are live, right now you should be able to see my screen, but it's a map of the United States. And these little red dots are where Google Services is live. Google Home Service ads are live right now. And the green dots are the ones that they are launching very, very soon. And when I say soon, in the next couple of months. This service is soon going to be launched across the United States. It started back in 2015, if you do a little bit of research on Google Home Services, as a product for locksmith and plumbing companies. And it was originally set up as a replacement for Google AdWords, and we'll get into this. But right now, it is not a replacement for Google AdWords. It is a complementary service to the Google search results. So right now, the cities that are live are San Francisco and the surrounding areas, San Diego, Los Angeles. Los Angeles went live January 1, and just to give you some type of time frame, no, I'm sorry, it didn't go live January 1, went live March 1st. But to give you some type of time frame, originally they started to recruit for Los Angeles back in about August or September of last year. And the go live date was January 1 for Los Angeles. And so all the way up until January 1, it was hurry up, get qualified, get customers up and running. Right now I have three clients that are up and running on Google Home Services. And, so everything was for Los Angeles was, and I'm based in Manhattan Beach, everything was get up and running very, very quickly for Los Angeles, January 1. Long story short is they didn't go live until March 1. So, it takes a long time for them to launch a specific city. But the reason why we're doing this webinar now rather than back in November and December and January is they're starting to move a lot more quickly on this particular offering from Google. And it's very important because we'll get into some of the results and how this is beneficial to you. And as most of you know, Philadelphia was the first East Coast city to go live. The green ones are the ones that they are actively recruiting. So if you are in that demographic, Seattle, Chicago, Phoenix, DC, or New York City, you want to jump on this program right away. So we're going to get into more details on how this works and why it's applicable to your business. But here's just a couple of screenshots of what it looks like. And then obviously you can open up a browser and do any type of search in these specific geographies or even your geography to see if it is live. And we'll get into some of the different screenshots on what it looks like. But here you can see upper left, air conditioning repair Los Angeles. You see these Google guaranteed, these Google Home Services ads, electricians Los Angeles. You can see these ads here, house cleaners San Jose, home painting San Francisco, locksmith. So we'll get into some of the variations on what this looks like and how it impacts your business. But first I wanted to give you a little bit of background specifically around how Google Home Services works. We're going to get into it as a consumer, on what the end user, what your potential customer would see and what it would look like from them. And then we'll also get into what it looks like from a business standpoint as you're partaking in this. So let's just do an example search here for plumber in Covina, California. For those that you don't know, Covina, California is part of Los Angeles County. And it's a client of mine, which is Courtesy Plumbing. So I just want to give you a real world example is as if you were living in Covina, California, which is part of Los Angeles. And, an example search, that you can put in the back of your mind would just be, the specific area that you live in, whether somebody's searching for a plumbing or an air conditioning company specific to a zip code or specific to a geography. So here's just a typical search that you would see on Google. And this was a screenshot that was taken as of yesterday. So plumber, Covina, California, an individual search. You would see here, which is the sponsored search. These are called the Google Home Services ads or Google Guaranteed ads. You can see here what it looks like. It's showing the reviews. It's showing the Google Guarantee. It's showing the company name. Then it's showing the pay-per-click ads, which are these three listings here. After that, and everybody should be familiar with Google AdWords and pay-per-click ads. Then below that, it's showing the map. And then below that is showing what we call the 3-pack, which is the three businesses that are listing on the map. So, and that's all what we call above the fold. So we're not even getting to the organic listings, which then we're showing Yelp. So you can kind of see the way that Google is structuring this. Over here on the right-hand side, we're looking at what it looks like on a mobile phone. So it's essentially a lot of Google mobile listings look a lot the same, and they're becoming more and more familiar to the desktop. So they're trying to kind of mirror those two experiences. Before, if you remember doing Google searches, the mobile phone looked a lot different than the desktop, but we're starting to see a lot of the same search results, which we call SERP, search result pages, the same on mobile and the same on desktop. But we'll get into a couple different examples. One thing that I wanted to point out, which my clients regularly remind me of, is that the search results are constantly changing. And Google, when they launched this back in 2015 and slowly launching California and now moving on to the other geographies, they've been testing this a ridiculous amount. So I haven't seen, most recently in the last 3 to 4 months, haven't seen a lot of different variations, but you can see from the screenshot here, San Diego plumber, here you see the Google Home Services ads with the map over here on the right side. And then when I was doing this search, AdWords, the pay-per-click ads were not being shown here. So this was, and then below this was organic. Here you can see plumbers in San Francisco, a totally different screenshot, but again, Google Home Services. Here you can see the phone number over here on the right side. You can see a button that says View Profile. You don't see the Google Guaranteed, although this is Home Services ads, and you see a picture of, generally it's the owner of the company, not the logo. So they were testing that. I'm not seeing a lot of this as of right now. And then over here on the right-hand side, on mobile, you're seeing what's called the carousel, which allows you to scroll to the right for the search results, and then you start to see the Google Guaranteed ads. The point is that anytime you search for a plumbing or an HVAC company across all the different keywords, you're going to see these Google Home Services ads. And what we're seeing is just a lot of testing that's going on. Over here on the right-hand side was one for Philadelphia, and you can see that they have a message button here and a call button. So it's just very consistent in terms of what we're seeing Google roll out and just constantly testing the search results And that's nothing new. So as an end user, let me pause for a second to see if there's any questions coming in. Looks like everything's going okay. Again, if you have any questions, put those in the chat box and I'll do my best to answer those. Again, what we're looking at right here is what it looks like from an end user standpoint. So back to the same search, plumber in Covina. When you do click on a home services ad, what you're going to see is a page that looks like this. Find the right plumber for your job. I typed in plumber, so they're always replacing this keyword based upon whatever that it is you're searching for. And you're given a couple different options here. You can either call the business or you can send a request. Now, if you call, what Google is doing for Google Home Services is it's a cost per lead basis. So they're keeping track of all of the phone numbers or they're doing phone call tracking for all of the phone numbers that are being dialed directly through the services. That's one of the ways they're keeping track of the leads that are coming in. Also send requests. So if you do pick up the phone and call as an end user, Google will track that as a lead, and we'll get into how you handle that as a business. And if you do click on the send request, I'll flip over to the next page here, and then what it asks the end user to do is simply go through 3 steps, which is one, type in your zip code, and this is how Google is qualifying the lead for you as the business. So you get the zip code, which is kind of nice, and then you get a little drop down here, whether it be plumbing or HVAC or locksmith. They're trying to further refine the actual lead. So pretty basic, step 1. Step 2 is they're asking the end user to describe the job. And by the way, you just in front of your computer can open up a browser and do any type of search, whether it be Philadelphia or California, Los Angeles, San Francisco, to see exactly how this works. I'm just taking you through some screenshots and letting you know that this is something that Google is also testing. But right now, this is what it currently looks like. So you contact Courtesy Plumbing, and now it asks you for step number 2 to describe the job. Like for the example here, I put in clogged drains. So how many drains? What's the location of this drain? Each one of these are a drop down. What's interesting here is which phase are you in? Which says, ready to hire, or I'm thinking about it, or I'm 1 month out, 2 month out, 3 month out. So that's also very interesting to pay attention to. That's step 2. Step 3, as an end user, me looking to get my drain fixed, it asks, when do you need the help? So it says flexible now. You type in your name, address, and then the send request. So that's pretty much how the send request works from an end user standpoint. And then if they are looking to call, that call comes directly into your business. So that's how it works from an end user standpoint. Now what we're going to do is we're going to flip over to how it works as the business owner, being the owner of the plumbing company, or being a CSR within a plumbing company, and as an advertiser. I'll pause very quickly to see if there are any questions. It's a good question. How does it work in relationship to Google My Business? I'll touch on that just quickly as we pause here. Google My Business is your Google Maps listing. And I'll show you in a future slide on how it works and how it integrates into that and why that is important. But basically, your Google Maps listing works hand in hand with your Google Home Services listing in terms of aggregating reviews for your business and also people posting reviews on your business. So I'll just back up quickly because I think that's an important question here. And you can see here that the reviews listed on your Google Home Services ad, which you can see a 4.8 here, it doesn't show the amount of reviews. Also, works hand in hand and integrates into your Google local business listing, which shows up on the maps. So that was a good question. Not sure if I answered it that well, but we'll get into that in a future slide. So let's get into how this works as the business owner and the advertiser. So this is a very primitive product for Google. In other words, like they don't even have a billing system associated with this. Whereas if you compare it to Google AdWords and Google Pay-Per-Click, for those of you that are partaking in that program, that is a very sophisticated, I would say highly sophisticated product that they've been building and investing, billions of dollars in. Google makes their money through Google AdWords. They have $1 billion in the bank, and all of their money is generated through that product. So that is one of the most sophisticated advertising platforms ever created. Now, Google Home Services is a brand new product that they've been building and launching. And it's funny when you talk to, I've been up to Google 3 times now. To meet with the Google Home Services team. As mentioned before, I have 3 clients on it, so I'm very familiar with it. I've been following it closely since 2015 when they discovered to launch it. And they're always talking about how their team is strapped for resources. Granted, they have like a 60-person team all working on this, but it's funny, I speak with my clients quite often within the plumbing and HVAC, and they're strapped for resources. They're searching for technicians and people to answer the phone. So when Google's like, oh, we're strapped for resources and we have limited budget, it's like, really? So we kind of laugh at that. But to my point is, it's a pretty basic interface. So I'm just showing you a screenshot of what it looks like from the business owners. On the left-hand side, this is the web interface, whereas they have this little, these 3 lines here, which is called the hamburger, which you can drop down to see, 3 or 4 different functions. The left-hand side is the web interface, and on well, I'll show you in the next slide what it looks like from a mobile app standpoint. Just like most things nowadays, Google launched this service with mobile first. So it's really a Google Home Services app that you download and that you have your technicians use the app to book and schedule appointments. Unfortunately, the way that most plumbing companies and HVAC companies are structured is you have, dispatch, which is essentially in your office, or a call service, which is, still people answering the phone. So the whole mobile first and having the app generally doesn't work as well as the web interface. So we'll focus a little bit more on the web interface. But here you can just see when a new lead comes in, it appears just like an email in your text box, and then you can click on the individual person, or the person who sends the request, which you get their email address and their phone number, or a phone call that comes in. Again, Google is tracking all phone calls. So when a phone call comes in, it appears here, and you get the caller ID. Generally, you get the person's name. And then when you do click on a person, you can book directly from the interface here, and you can book the job and schedule the job and just do those basic things. Here's what it looks like on the mobile app. So when a call comes in, and what's interesting, looking at Google Home Services and just working with plumbing and HVAC companies, and I've been in this business for about 10 years now, well, over 10 years now. What's interesting is that most of the leads that come in, the new customers, they're still coming in via phone call. I made the prediction maybe about 5-6 years ago that people were not going to be picking up the phone when they needed a plumbing company, that they were just going to fill in an online request or a live chat or just sending an email. But of all the leads that we generate as a company across our client base, which is probably 5,000 leads on a monthly basis across all of our clients that we're tracking, I would say that 85 to 90% of all leads that are generated are coming in via a phone call. So that was something that Google probably didn't have the insight into, the amount of phone calls that were coming in via people sending a request or via text messaging. So just to back up a little bit, as a business owner, here's the interface that you look at, all the calls that are coming in. You get to see the caller ID. You get to see, if it's a phone or a lead. You also have the ability to book the appointment via their booking system, which is very, very simple. Now, to get into how a lead is handled and how Google charges for this, we'll cover that in the next screen. But in terms of this being advantageous for your business, we're seeing that Google Home Services and the leads that are coming in are extremely high quality in terms of the phone calls, in terms of the requests that are coming in, and I think that's all part of Google's qualification process. Generally speaking, with Google Home Services, and again, it's a pay per lead basis, we're seeing roughly about 70% of all leads, phone calls or emails, turning into appointments. And then as an HVAC company or a plumbing company, when you get that appointment, when you're sending the technician or you're going to that customer's home or business, roughly, I'll say, 80% of the time you're going to turn that appointment into a customer. So roughly 70% conversion into an appointment, and then once you get on site, your own conversion rate there. And as Google Home Services, it's a pay per lead basis. So the ability to decline leads is all built within the interface on the mobile app as well as the desktop. So if you're not interested in the lead, you can decline it. And then Google, when you decline a lead, it says, let the customer down easy. Sorry, we don't service your area. And what's also pretty neat about Google Home Services is that if it is if it's not a qualified lead, like you experience every day, somebody trying to sell you something, or a wrong number or an automated call, then you do not have to pay for that lead. So you can simply decline the lead. What's also pretty neat from the interface is you have the ability to turn your ads on and turn your ads off just simply by turning them on, turning them off. So if you don't want to accept any leads over the weekend, turn it on, turn it off. In terms of scheduling when you want your ads to show, it's just not that sophisticated. So as I mentioned before, just from the interface, it's really simple. So if you click that hamburger, those three lines in the upper left, you're just within the interface on the web interface, you're just going to get these four drop downs, which is leads, managing your online reviews, your profile, and your ad budget. And the way that Google Home Services works is that, once you're qualified and inside the program, you set up a budget, which is right now it's a weekly budget. We'll get into, what's a good budget and what's the low end of the budget and the high end of the budget and how much money you can spend and what's the quality of those leads. I'll get into a future slide, but you can essentially just set your ad budget here. You get a profile page, which Google helps you build, and you have the ability, I don't even think within the interface you have the ability you do have the ability to edit some of these areas, but you get the phone number, your website, and then this is what appears to the consumer on the other end here. And you get the type of jobs, and what's kind of neat here from the interface, you can turn on the jobs that you want more of or less of. And so it's just a really simple interface. It's easy to work with. It is mobile first, but yet you can also experience quite a bit. So let's get into how Google charges for this. As mentioned before, you can set up what's called a weekly budget, and which is designated the amount of money that you want to spend. And from what I've been seeing from our clients, you can do anywhere from $500 or anywhere from $200 a week. Google really hasn't put any any restrictions on what you can set from a weekly ad budget. And we'll get into how you qualify for this, but what we've been seeing as really being the sweet spot in terms of the number of leads that can be generated is setting a weekly budget, anywhere between $1,000 and $2,000. And how the system works and how Google charges you for that, as I mentioned before, it's a very new product. They don't even necessarily have a billing system built for this. So the way that they charge you is when you're in the program and you've qualified and you're starting to get these leads, is they'll send you an invoice at the end of the month for the previous month, and it's just an email which says pay your balance here, and then the screen just comes up, put in your credit card, put in your name, your billing address, and then just pay for whatever it is. And you pay for it on a per lead basis. So right now within Los Angeles and San Francisco and San Diego, and this number has been changing, but right now it's $23 per lead. And I've heard that Philadelphia is $19 per lead, and I've heard that Seattle is launching with $22 per lead. So it's kind of a moving target. And when you inquire with Google and you sign up for the program, they won't give you any guarantees on what it does cost per lead. But the nice thing about the program is that it is a cost per lead. So compare that to the money that you're spending with Yelp, which is kind of a black hole. You don't get very good analytics from Yelp, but it's, whatever, $350 or $2,000 a month for quote unquote impressions, which is the way that Yelp charges. And Yelp does do pay per click, but it's very, spotty. And those that are on the call, they know exactly, how Yelp works. But also compare this to Google pay per click, whereas whatever market that you're in, if you're familiar with pay per click advertising, it varies anywhere from, $9 a click to, $22 per click, and you have no idea, who's clicking on your specific ads, and you're going to pay for every single one of those clicks. And pay per click conversion rate for a plumbing company, if you're doing really well, call it 20%. Back to what I mentioned before, pay per click conversion rate for Google Home Services, when you get a phone call from your ad on Google within Google Home Services, or when you get a send request, we're looking at roughly, 70%. So just compare those two. But that's a little bit on how Google charges. So I'm going to pause again just for some questions. So here's a good one. How many contractors are being sent the lead? So that's a great question, and I want to address that right now, because compare that to Angie's List and eLocal Plumbers and Networks, or just compare that to these slides here. Some of these companies are sending, so Thumbtack, for example, when a user fills out a request for a clogged drain or an air conditioner repair, Thumbtack's going to send it to 3 what they call pros or professionals. With Google Home Services, it's completely up to the user. And I also want to point out one other thing that drives me bonkers, is that when somebody fills in a request on Yelp, and this is somebody coming directly to your Yelp profile, and if you're an advertiser with Yelp, the last screen that a end user would see from a Yelp request is, hey, do you want to also send this to 3 other home services or HVAC or plumbing companies in your area? And by the way, that's when you're paying for that Yelp lead. So I want everyone to explore that and take a look at that. But back to, the question here that was posted in the chat, how many of these requests, or are the service requests coming directly to you or to you and two or three of your other competitors? So when it's a phone call, which is the majority of the leads that come in, that's exclusive to you. So when a user searches, when they click on this from a mobile device, click the call, or when they call that, that's exclusive to you, and that lead will show up in your dashboard on your mobile app and ring your phone. So that's pretty cool. That's exclusive to you. When they do click on send request, they have the ability to send it to multiple companies that service that particular geography, or they can send it exclusively to you. So see where it says one plumber selected? You can select up to 3 or 5 as the end user. So hopefully that answers your question. It's kind of long-winded. But the request, when it's a send request, it comes exclusively to you, or the end user, the person with the clog drain, can send it out to multiple plumbing companies. And that's how most of these services work. Thank you for that question. That's a great question. And as a user here, so we're going to jump right back into the slides around how you can get started and get your company enrolled in this program. Before I do that, I'm just going to answer a couple questions, and then what I'm going to do is I have about 10 more minutes, and then I'm going to stick around for at least 20 minutes to answer any questions, and we can activate anybody live on the call. Let me just look here. Yeah, so here's another good question. AdWords and Home Services, Google Home Services, are two separate products. So is it possible to show up with your Google Home Services ad and also show up in the search results in the pay-per-click ads? I'm going to flip over to a screenshot here, and also on the map, and also in the organic listings. And so what I've seen, and I'd love to hear some feedback, is that I have not seen, so for example here on my screen, so the question is, can you show up here on Home Services? Can you show up here in pay-per-click? Can you show up here on the map? Can you show up here in the listing with all your reviews, and then show up organically? So what I've been seeing is that a business, and for our clients here, you can definitely be part of Google Home Services, and you can be doing pay-per-click. So yes, you can be part of both those programs and spending money. But what I've seen from Google search results is I do not see our companies, our clients showing up here within the Google Home Services and also in pay-per-click ads. So they kind of flip back and forth, whereas if a client of ours is showing up in Home Services, then we generally do see them showing up here in their geography for the pay-per-click ads. But we don't see the double dipping. In other words, Home Services and the ad and the map and the listing and organically. We generally we work very hard for our clients, so we show up organically pretty much all the time. We show up on the maps majority of the time, and then either Home Services or pay-per-click. So hopefully I answered that question. That's a good question. If you can, kind of show up for pay-per-click, Google Home Services, on the map. So good question. I'm just going to scroll through, see if there are any other questions. Sorry about, for those that you are on the line, if you don't mind muting yourself. There's a lot of people on the call, so it's difficult to see who's generating the background noise. Here's another question. I think we're supposed to mute ourselves. So why is it not integrated directly into Yelp? Because Google and Yelp are enemies on the playground, and they do not get along very, very well. Let me see, just some other questions here. Sorry about all the background noise. All right. So again, keep the questions flowing. I'm going to be sticking around to answer any additional questions. But one of the questions that's probably in the back of everyone's mind is if this program is so good, and if a lot of people have been talking about it, and it's the newest and greatest thing that Google's ever launched related to advertising on Google, and if it outperforms Amazon Home Services and Yelp and Home Advisor and Angie's List and Thumbtack, how do I get involved with this program? So number one is, as shown before in the slides, you have to be within one of the areas that Google has launched this program, or one of the geographies in which they are launching. And if you need any help getting listed, obviously I'm available. Feel free to give me a call. But if you want to get involved, early on, and one of the things that Google suggests is just to fill in this contact form. So those of you that will get the slides afterwards in the video, you can just fill in this contact form to at least get yourself registered. But part of this program and the way that Google is positioning this is what they're calling a closed beta testing of a product, which is invitation only. And that is the exact verbiage that they're using. So you can fill in this contact form. I've been involved with onboarding, only 3 clients so far within the specific geographies, and it is quite a bit of a process. I'll get into the process, but just filling in this contact form does not mean that you're going to be eligible for this program. They probably have hundreds, if not thousands, of people filling in this contact form. And honestly, they call them recruiters at Google that are qualifying these companies and adding them to this program. It's about a 60-person team. They're not paying attention to this form at all. So yeah, you can fill it out. You can fill it out every single day, but it's not really going to get you into this program. The number one way, and this program is rolling out, they're starting to really pick up speed. And my feeling on it is that they're going to roll out this program throughout the entire country in every single geography. They're just getting it right within, California, within Philadelphia, within, all the different geographies. And then they are going to roll it out. So it is something you want to pay attention to. The number one way to get qualified for this program is to build your online credibility, which is the second bullet here on the screen. So as the recruiters, quote unquote, that's what they're calling them, that are onboarding clients, the number one thing that they're looking for is, online credibility for this businesses. They're thinking about the end user first. In other words, this business, do I trust them coming to my house? Do I trust them coming, to my mother's house if I'm not located in that specific geography? So my recommendation to the folks that are on this call or paying attention to this presentation is to build your online credibility. I have a couple slides to share with you specific to that. And then they have a checklist. Our company's spending money on AdWords, pay-per-click. How many reviews do they have on Yelp? How many reviews do they have on Facebook? Are they on social media profiles? Now, each one of these checklists, if somebody wants to email me after this presentation, I just noticed a spelling mistake, employees. Sorry about that. But if anybody wants to email me the checklist, but what's interesting about the checklist is not any one of the items are disqualifiers to being accepted to the program. So if you're on this call and if you are a plumbing company and you have one truck and you've been in business for 10 years and you have a great online reputation and you want to be part of this program, then Google is more than willing to accept you. They actually want you. So they want the very small companies, the medium-sized companies, and then the big companies that all service that area. And think about it, you as a consumer, in the way that you make your buying decisions, whether it be repairing a fence in your backyard, unclogging a drain, getting an air conditioning installed, or even as as a business owner, a large HVAC system. Sometimes you want the big company to come to your house, which has the amazing online reputation. They have 15, 20 trucks. You see them everywhere around town, and you just want the job done right. You're willing to spend the extra money. You want that big company. Sometimes you want, just the individual contractor that might be hanging out in the Home Depot parking lot, depending upon what your need is and your buying characteristics. So Google's taken that in consideration. So they want the small guy, they want the medium-sized company, and then they also want the large guys. So don't feel as though you're not big enough to be qualified for this program. So I'll touch a little bit more on online credibility, and then part of the onboarding process is, basic business information. You know what I mean? So that's your name, address, phone number. So as long as you're part of Google local business, I think that's a non-negotiable. You need to be part of that and get your profile up and running. Employees need to, and also the business owner needs to pass a background check. Obviously you need a contractor's license and general liability. They're vetting all of these service providers to create a better, end user experience for the person who is using that service. So pretty basic stuff. I'll touch a little bit on, how to be selected. Again, it's an opt-in, invite only from Google. I'm going to pause a second here just to catch up on some of these questions. Is there a replay? Yeah, all the slides are going to be provided. The recording will be provided. Let me just read this question here. So Google Home Services, aggregating reviews within Google Home Services, they do have a request review button within Google Home Services, and that the team is working very, very closely to integrate Google Home Services with Google My Business Listing. I'm struggling a little bit with that right now, and I'm yelling and screaming with the team over at Google to make sure that if one of my clients takes on a project within Google Home Services, we request a review within Google Home Services. I want that to show up on our Maps listing and also with our Google Home Services page. I'm sorry, Google Local Business page. And for those of you that have been in business for a while, the Google Local Business page and aggregating online reviews, it's been a mess for Google, and it's kind of like spaghetti, and they're constantly evolving. The good thing is that now they do have some customer service associated with your Google Local Business listing, and they're allocating a lot of resources to it, but it is ever evolving. So the most important thing about so if there are any more questions, drop those into the box, and I'll be sure to answer those. We're going to finish up in about 10 minutes here, and we're going to finish up in about 2 minutes, and I'll be available for any questions for the next 10 minutes or even thereafter, and obviously available via email and cell phone and text and all that sort of stuff. But how do you build your online credibility? There's essentially 4 components of a very good internet marketing system, which is paid search, which is part of the Google Home Services that we're talking about, Google AdWords, pay-per-click, search engine optimization. There's also email marketing, which is just staying in regular contact with your customers and your prospects, and providing great information, value-added content, and then social media. So those are really the 4 pillars to success of bringing people to your website, and then focusing in on converting those into phone calls. Part of our process and part of our system, you can see from the slide here, is more content in more places helps build your online credibility. So if you start here on the left-hand side, you can see that there's search engines that we're all familiar with, directories, like Super Pages and Yellow Pages and YP.com. You have sites and blogs that you want to, regularly publish content on and build profiles on. You have content and social media sites, the deal sites, you want to get listings on them. So part of our process and system to build online credibility is to build profiles on a lot of these sites and publish content on a regular basis, maintaining your social profiles like Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Pinterest and Instagram. So if there are any questions on that, just let me know. So what happens when you get a call from Google or an email? And when I say from Google, I mean the real Google, not everybody, all the impersonators who say, help me get your business listed on Google, but I'm from, ABC Marketing, which I'm sure you get every single day. So once you get part of the program and you get tapped on the shoulder, getting acceptance into the program, you're going to receive a welcome email. And this is where, the process begins. Whereas you're going to want to do your background checks is through Google has a third-party service called Pinkerton. And you just want to stay on this stuff. It takes a little while to get through the program. But a couple things that you really want to understand is when is the program launching live in your geography, and to manage that end date, because the early adopters are going to be the ones who generate the most amount of leads. And so you just want to stay on it. You're going to get a welcome email, which gets into, the background checks. You're going to want to download the mobile app and then complete the training. Here's a link directly to the training, which, walk you through that, and then just work with your Google representative or your consulting firm that is helping you with the onboarding process. It's pretty basic. And then once you get in it, managing the online leads and booking them through the system is all giving direct feedback to Google on the service. And again, it's on a pay per lead basis, roughly, $23 per lead. So if a lead comes in and if it's not well qualified, then you decline the lead or dispute the lead and you don't pay for it. So that's about it. I'm here to answer any questions. We're here to help. If you do need help onboarding or getting integrated into this program, the number one thing is, you need to service the geography, and generally being located in the geography when Google is launching this is most important. Here's my cell phone. You can text this number. A lot of people text this number, which is my office line, and it doesn't accept text. Obviously, email, visit our website. Thank you, everyone, for participating in this webinar. And the slides and the video are all going to be provided after this. They'll be posted on our website. You get them via email. Any questions that I can answer? I can turn anybody's microphone on and off. See, here's a question. And it's a good one. I don't know the answer to this. The question is, can the reviews through Google Home Services or Google Local Business be used as an extension in AdWords? If anybody knows the answer, you could type it in. But that's one that has certainly stumped me. The reviews extension in AdWords. Give me some homework, Holly. I will definitely look into that. Copy of the webinar, slides, no problem. Let's see, I'm just scrolling through some of the questions. Hopefully folks can still hear me. I apologize for all the background noise. If I do one of these again, I'll have to come up with a solution for that. Probably go to webinar, not go to meeting. Thank you everyone for attending. Again, I'm going to stick around for any questions if you type them in, or everybody's mic should be live so you can actually just ask the question. All right, so we're about rounding on the hour. Unless I see any questions popping in right now, we'll call it a wrap. Thank you everyone for attending. Ooh, any idea when automotive will launch? No idea. You know, I mean, I've been following this since 2015. So if we look at this slide that came in directly from Google yesterday, you know, these are, you know, so this has been slow going. So when automotive will launch, who knows? You know what I mean? Right now we're locksmith, plumbing, HVAC, electrician, garage door, painting. You know, I'm surprised we're not even seeing roofing up here. Never mind automotive. You know, how can you check to see if it's located, when it will be offered in your area? I'm going to do my best to keep everybody updated. You can see that the green buttons here on my slide, Seattle, Chicago, Phoenix, DC, New York City, they're actively recruiting. So Google is reaching out every single day looking to attract 40 to 50 companies in each one of those specific geographies. And when I say specific, you know, an area like, I don't know, an area like DC is pretty broad, so they're going to want 40 to 50 companies all within a 5-mile radius of the zip codes. So it's pretty crazy. Let me see if there's other questions here. All right, this is a good question. How does Google determine who gets the call? And the call is based upon the end user experience. So if I go here and look at the screenshots of the preview, the phone number is listed here. And then with Google Home Services, these are all tracking numbers. So if I search electricians servicing Los Angeles, and if I call Express Electrical, or if I click to call, that's an exclusive lead and phone call that Express Electrical gets. So they're not, you know, doing arbitrage, and they're not dispatching to multiple companies. So I'm just sorting through the questions here. So it looks like, David, you're certified already. Certified meaning you're already in the program, already experiencing leads. If you don't mind jumping on the call, you know, I mean, how's your experience been? Any good, bad, or indifferent? I want to hear the pluses and the negatives. So automotive, it's not on the radar. Coming to a location near you. Thank you everyone for attending. Yes, so sorry about this. I probably should address this. GMB, which is Google My Business, all your reviews integrate directly into Google Home Services profile, which is super cool. So congratulations on all your reviews. Brandon within Google My Business, GMB. Took me a little while to figure out what GMB stood for, but congratulations. So yeah, all those reviews are going to migrate into your Google Home Services business listing when they launch in your specific area, which is awesome. So any additional questions? So I'm going to close down the meeting. Again, thank you all for attending. The slides and the video will be sent out to you, and hopefully this has provided some insight into Google Home Services. Again, thank you all for attending. Have a good day. Bye-bye.